Now with that, I'm sure all of you are excited about the next session. And we all know that in order to be a leader, in order to be the change, you must have the potential and the power to be the change. And that change is something which is always constant. The orthodox art of teaching and learning has also evolved over time and has helped us to evolve in ways that we never knew we could. Who knew that a static book would have changed into an audiovisual platform? Who knew that even if we were hit by the pandemic, we could all connect at this level through Zoom? Who knew we could learn, unlearn, and relearn from such distinguished and esteemed speakers that we have had in the last 3 days? With massive open online courses available on different platforms like Unacademy, like YouTube, like iTunes, Coursera, we all have a plethora of opportunities to embrace the change and be educated. One-to-one, one-to-many. And to moderate this wonderful panel discussion in which we'll be having our hosts, the principal of Pearl School, Doha, Qatar, Manjari Recriwal. We'll also be having the co-founder and CEO of Authentica, Ravi, and the director of National Academy of Science and Creative Arts, Siddharth Mathur. So let's have a round of applause for all the distinguished speakers that we'll be having in this panel discussion. And to moderate this wonderful event, we have somebody who is a transformational leader. Our moderator, Smita Narayan, is an experienced transformational leader with 27 years of experience. She has been a keynote speaker at conferences and growth specialist with a demonstrated history of corporate, institutional, and social transformation. Distinguished Toastmaster Smita is a decorated Toastmaster who has won a plethora of accolades and inspires us to be a powerful orator and an impactful leader. Skilled in negotiation, business planning, people management, IT strategy, and management, she is a strong business development professional with a Master of Business Administration from Institute of Management Technology, Ghaziabad. Her last held role in Toastmasters was that of the Vice President Education for Delhi Advanced Toastmasters, and she is a proud member of Pune Advanced Toastmasters. And her last held role at the professional level was being the Senior Vice President of Bank of America Merrill Lynch based in London, and she has worked in GE Capital and many change management organizations. She is a certified Lean Six Sigma professional who has worked across 9 countries, my friends. And what people do not know about her is that she is one of the she's one of the top 60 all India toppers for the commerce stream. She studied in multiple convent schools and DPS RK Puram before doing maths honors from St. Stephen's College. She is a British citizen who joins today from London. So please help me welcome our panelists for today and the moderator for this session, distinguished Toastmaster Smita Narayan. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mridula. It's been such a pleasure attending all the sessions over the last 3 days and helping the organizers put this together. Everything that Mridula you've said was in my first 50 years of my life. Of course, my next 50 years would tell another story. Changing face of education. The 3 panelists have been carefully chosen, and I'll introduce them without much ado. The first one being DTM Toastmaster Ravi. He's distinguished in my eyes. And what I would like to let everybody know about Ravi is that he's the co-founder and CEO of Authentica, an experiential learning company that designs and delivers short-term study abroad programs across Asia for institutions keen to align their programs with the UN Sustainable Developmental Goals. Ravi Raj is also a member of Pune Advanced Toastmasters, and his social impact experience includes working as a social enterprise consultant with Eastside Consulting in London, in UK, and he's also a fellow of the Center of Business and Society at Dartmouth College. He is an MBA from Tuck School of Business and Dartmouth, and strategy consulting experience with Oliver Wyman in the US. Now, Ravi is focused on sending postgrad and undergrad students abroad for experiential learning. Our other panelist is Siddharth Narayan Mathur. And Siddharth is someone who has brings with him a rich experience spanning over 25 years in leading organizations in media and entertainment, pharmaceutical and educational sectors. He's one of the founding directors at the World Academy of Career Programs, which is strategic collaboration with International Baccalaureate Organization, Geneva, Switzerland. He leads the organization into educational research on career-related courses in multiple academic streams. These have direct bearing on new age careers and offered as part of the IB's prestigious IB Career Program, IBCP. That's for years 10th, 11th, 12th. He's also one of the partners and investors in NASCA LLP, which is the Nest Academy of Science and Creative Arts, which is at the forefront of serving the K-12 industry with innovative educational modules specially designed to complement the school academic programs we have currently in areas of computational thinking, application, and concepts. We also have, last but not the least, DTM Manjari Recriwal. DTM Manjari is an educationist for 35 years, 25 in Delhi Public School. She taught at DPS Mathur Road. She's a distinguished Toastmaster in Toastmaster, a member of TMND almost more than 13 years ago. She was the founder member of CDTM. She is currently the principal of Pearl School in Doha, Qatar, which has 3 campuses. And she's been known to me for well over 50 years. May I please ask all the panelists to join with their video and audio unmuted. I'll start with the very first question. It is an esteemed panel with someone looking at the schooling session, someone looking at the undergrad session, and in comes Siddharth from literally nowhere saying, we need to do career planning and career programming right from the start. So my very first question to all of you is, how do you believe from the time you graduated so many years ago that education has really changed today in the last, let's say, over the 20 years? And where do you think we are today? So I'll start off with Manjari Recriwal. Manjari, if I could have your views, please. Please unmute your audio and video at all times during this panel discussion.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And at the outset, my appreciation and gratitude to the Phoenix Literature Festival for giving me an opportunity. And let's hope what I speak today may be a little value added. Speaking about how the education has changed from the past few years to the present, of course, let me say that the education today offers a vast range of opportunities to our young learners. And I remember myself 4 decades ago, being a journalist or even opting for the so-called new commerce stream was considered being adventurous. But the students these days, because of all the information at their disposal, they are much more confident. They are willing to take risks. And in fact, they're very lucky because they can try out new subject combinations, you know, rather than the conventional humanities and science streams which were there till a few years ago. Also, the present day curriculum, it has seen a paradigm shift. The key words, I'm sure all of you, at least in India, are aware of. The key words are joyful learning, competencies, skill-based learning. Presently, a child in the senior secondary stage, and especially in my school, which has just begun the senior secondary classes, a child has a variety of subjects to choose from. Legal studies in grade 11, horticulture, entrepreneurship, information practices, data science, artificial intelligence, and so on. So this itself speaks of how the entire education has changed from what it was probably 20 years ago to what it is now. Thank you.
So, Thank you. Ravi, your views on the same. I mean, obviously, you've been to Ivy Business School, you studied at Dartmouth, you're now in Pune doing this for the society in India, and we've been interacting over the years on what change you've been causing. So what are your views? What's really changing now vis-a-vis the earlier part?
Hi. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, great, thanks. Yeah, so I would agree with Manjari, and there's a lot of actually options that are available today for the students than they were available back when we graduated. I don't want to say how long ago, but I do. Okay, I want to say that my vantage point is slightly different from Manjari's and Siddharth's, in the sense that I get to interact with students as the business. So we have had interns from high schools to middle schools, and also college students as interns. And we also serve the universities and students. Basically, my vantage point has been from that point. What I see is that there are some schools that have actually broken away from the pack, especially the IB schools, right? So their curriculum defines, is by definition very much aligned to what the students do in the real world. So I see that some, especially the schools that are following the IB curriculum, they tend to be more grounded in real world experience and practical learning, whereas ICSC, CBSC, they're all high quality and they all have these options as electives, but the pedagogical methods have largely been in old school pedagogy. And I see that changing, but I would say largely the pedagogy is what needs to evolve a little bit more. And I'm hopeful that actually it will be happening, especially with the national education policy that's come out last year, which is sort of almost mandating that shift from a regulation perspective. But that's really the biggest difference between 20 years ago and now, the options and the pedagogical tools.
It's interesting that you mentioned the shift of IB schools away from the mainstream schooling that they're used to, like the Central Board of Secondary Education, the ICSE, GCSEs in the UK, for example, or the state boards like UP State Board. So this brings me to the point that, you know, when my daughter was doing her IB curriculum, which she just finished, she had a combination of things like maths and physics, but then she had high-level economics, high-level business management, and you know, different other subjects like French and English, which was the luxury that children have today, which I never had. And you know, walking into DPS Archipram with a commerce degree was tough, because how do you prove yourself to be amongst the best in the commerce field at that point of time, when people were not expecting you to not do engineering or medical school? So Siddharth, this brings an interesting point to what you're trying to do now with the IB program, coming up with a career program. Both, what do you think has changed? And I know you're a father of a young child. What do you think has really changed, and what is it that you want to drive forward as you move?
Yeah, I think there's been a huge shift in the way education is imparted over the last 30 years. You know, you're seeing a clear move and trend towards digitalization, and you're actually moving out of physical conventional classrooms, and you're getting into really immersive online sessions, and you're able to do that quite qualitatively. While we say that, one encouraging thought that has come up to everybody is that the schools are now, in fact, shedding their rigidness in terms of adopting new technologies, perhaps even moving away from their set formats. You know, so they're extremely open to kind of adopting newer methodologies, and perhaps even taking up new specializations as part of their curriculum. So you're seeing a whole lot of revamp happening at that stage. When you look at the IB education, and you see that the industry is moving into super specializations, whether it is technology, whether it is management, sports, entertainment, whatever it is. And somewhere there is a collaboration between the academics and the industry, because you need to really make sure that your students are industry ready, they're career ready. So there is a bit of influx of that particular knowledge coming in. And we're seeing a lot of schools, especially IB, really championing the concept of IBCP, you know, taking the career programs right at grade 11 and 12, and offering students to choose, you know, their interest and passion areas, and kind of really nurture their, and craft out their higher education aspirations. You know? So you're going to see in the next 1 or 2 years, perhaps about 30 to 40 different specializations walking into grade 11 and 12 in the IBCP platform itself. Now, this is nothing new. This has been happening across the world for the last 8 years. IDCT is a tried and tested formula, but in India, it's pretty new. But if you reflect back to our students who have been preparing for their CA examinations, they have been picking up these choices and being focused on nurturing their chartered accountancy aspirations much earlier on. I think the trend is just caught up, and we are now looking at specializations in technology, whether it is artificial intelligence, as Manjari just spoke about, or whether it's sports management, events management, general management, or you're looking at even fine art, filmmaking, and I would go to the extent that a lot of students are looking at psychology. So just imagine the whole spectrum is kind of opened up, and the choices are immense, and students really have a choice now to really craft out their own pathways. So I think there are interesting times ahead, and we should be able to really see a lot of participation and excitement from students all over.
Excellent. So, in India, if I could say, last 20 years have seen a humongous change that you've evidenced. Where do you think we'll be 20 years from now? Where are we going through? And if I look at 3 pillars of success for a successful education, I remember my grandfather saying it's about knowledge, skill development, and of course, personality development, if you were to de-link it from being a skill. Now, of course, knowledge is available free everywhere. You can go to Google and you can get the knowledge on various subjects. For skill and personality development, do you feel 20 years later, I mean, if you were to vision and see your school, Manjari, 20 years later, or Ravi, your organization, or Siddharth, how the IB is developing people, where are we heading? Of course, technology is a key thing that you all commonly agree on. But Manjari, where do we think we're going?
Well, frankly telling you, I won't speak about 20 years from now. I can speak 5 years from now. Already the change is visible. In India, I was in Delhi for the summer vacation, and I was really happy to see that, of course, we are serious about implementing the NEP. The main thing about NEP is that children will enjoy, they will learn what they want to do and at their own pace. And what made me more happy was that the Delhi government has launched the first university, the Delhi Skills and Entrepreneurship University, which started on 6th of July. And this is aiming to skill all the youth, enabling them to access aspirational jobs. Not jobs that are available, but aspirational jobs. So that is one change. And it will also inculcate in them a mindset for entrepreneurship. And this change, like we always see, when you talk at the global level, forget 20 years from now. Right now, what is it about foreign universities or schools? Children love going to schools or universities. Actually, because of the choices that they have been able to pursue, probably the love for learning, and they do enjoy. Now, this is what was probably a little lacking in the Indian scenario, which hopefully it will change. So this would be one change probably in the Indian education vis-a-vis the global scenario. So skills, yes. Personality, definitely. Because when we walk around, I always tell my students in school that when you enter a room, you don't enter with a placard that says 90% or a placard that says a full centum in maths and science. It's the way you walk in, the way you talk, the way you greet. That is what matters. So it goes hand in hand. Knowledge, yes. Skills, yes, enhancing of our skills, as well as the personality development. That is one change which definitely will spur us, and we can already see more and more leaders in the international arena from India.
Thank you. Ravi, just to ask you, organizations like Toastmasters are more into personality and skill development on leadership and communication skills, for example. Ravi, what is your advice to colleges and institutions after schooling? What is it that they need to be geared up with to face these changes in education?
Right.
What would you advise them?
So actually, if you look at the statistics and some of the research that's gone in here, the pace of technology development is so much that, it's no longer where somebody joins a job and they're staying the same job for entire career. The research basically suggests that on average, the students that are going to be graduating will be changing their careers 7 times. It's not changing jobs, it's changing careers 7 times in their lifetime. Now, what does that mean for an individual? Which means that they need to be able to reskill themselves again and again and again. So I think the biggest thing that education system needs to impart is learning how to learn. So that is the most important thing that the system needs to do, which is kind of how the NEP is actually geared towards helping students learning how to learn, because they're making industry learning mandatory, project-based learning, encouraging project-based learning, and they're given the colleges till 2030 to adopt it. They have to adopt it by 2030. I think 10 years is a long time. Hopefully colleges actually and schools adopt it sooner, but we really kind of have to help students develop these skills. And learning how to learn, you can say, it's a soft skill. It's not an intellectual habit. It's more of a physical habit of exploring and figuring out, problem solving, critical thinking. All of these things comes under soft skills. And sadly, soft skills are actually relegated to electives or something that you do on your own. They're not formally taught in schools and colleges as much as they should be. So learning how to learn should be encouraged through these development of soft skills. And again, the future of jobs, if you look at it, the Gen Z, everybody in Gen Z wants to work for themselves. They don't want to kind of join a big machinery and work for a large company, which is also kind of aligned with the gig economy. Everybody wants to work for multiple clients from wherever they want to be. They want to sit in Bali and do graphic design and content writing and things like that. Like Manjari was saying, the aspirational careers. So this will be enabled by bringing all of these real world skills closer to the schools through these project-based learning activities. So it should not just be academic projects with very theoretical, but it should also be applied learning. How do you actually kind of, if, for example, let's have students make a Facebook page for a nonprofit in their community. Let's have them run some digital marketing campaigns for this organization. All of this needs to kind of come in earlier and sooner in the curriculum, and it's happening. Like the saying goes, the future is already here. It's just a bit fragmented and dispersed, and that's going to get a little bit more predominant. I'm quite hopeful because the industry is, making it happen. A lot more privatization happening in schools and the education sector broadly. A lot more collaborations happening between the governments and private sectors and innovation centers. All of this will actually bode well for the students in terms of creating opportunities for them.
Great. Siddharth, that brings me to a question for you, which is, rural India, on day one on our litfest, someone did point out that the women child, the girl child, the women are overly still in the rural areas. Education is not being prioritized by their families, especially those that have multiple children, and would still continue to prioritize boys over girls. Now, I know you did some very good quality work in Times of India, and even now what you're doing. Do you feel that we as educationists or people who want to drive social change are doing enough for promoting rural education? Because let's not just focus on the urban, and let's look at the women and the girl child on education. So where do you feel we are heading to, and what, if you were the education minister, what would you advise how to go about it? Especially when I know you study buy-in places there.
Well, there is a lot of encouraging news on this front. I think the government is doing a lot as far as bringing in girl students into schools. Not only the government, I think there are a lot of these public private partnerships, NGOs who are playing a massive role at the village level, taluka level, district level to really bring in this inclusion, and create awareness on gender equality and the need for education and the impact education has on a family. Like they say that you train a guy, I think he gets you a living, but when you train a girl, I think you are able to really build up an entire family, nurture the entire ecosystem. So the message is really percolating fast and wide. So there are, but there are certain challenges which are still there. I think from an infrastructure point of view, schools need to become more girl friendly. There has to be certain reforms on that front. So those are taking place. These are processes which take a bit of time, but there are a lot of fundings happening from the government side as well as from the local community. So we are seeing some traction on that front. Not only that, I think the girls have really proven to be great at education. I mean, look at the kind of results they're showing. I mean, you give them the opportunity and they're turning out fabulous. So, so there are a lot of organizations which are supporting these movements at the grassroots level. So I think that made a big impact. Moving forward, we see that there will be a lot of government schools which would be expanding their horizons. Like for instance, just like Manjari and Ravi mentioned earlier, there is a lot of public-private partnership, and one great news is that Delhi government has just signed up a big contract with the ID, which enables it to in fact open up 30 schools within Delhi, government schools, which will be called the DP schools, the IBDP schools. So that's great, because now you don't really need to have a great amount of resources at your end. A regular government school child should be able to experience such education and benefit from it. And not only that, it also creates a repository of knowledge with the institution. So there are a lot of CBSE students and state board students who are in that same ecosystem, who are really going to benefit from the learnings that they get by adopting IBCP. And I think that has a far-reaching impact. So, so I think that's where we are, and you will see a lot of such traction, not only from IBCP or IBDP perspective, but we're seeing that collaboration happening even with the Cambridge board and IBCSE. And I think everywhere the emphasis is on girl education. There is a lot of perks that are being offered at the grassroots level, especially at the village level, to ensure that the girls are brought into the schools and they really fare well.
That's brilliant, Siddharth, because, it broke my heart when my daughter wanted to shift from DPS Argapuram in class 8 and move to IBDP. And it's warming to know that the Delhi government is actually tying up for our IBDP program, which now I know is one of the best programs you can have for a child. Brings me to Manjari. Manjari, we will be wrapping up soon. So if you could keep this brief. Now, you've studied in Loreto Convent, Presentation Convent, G. St. Mary College in Delhi. And while the boards may be similar to other schools, do you believe that even now divides are existing in our education system in India between convents and non-convent educated, day boarding and hostel schools, private schools and public schools? Do you believe this divide? And what are your views on trying to bridge this over the next few years if the divide does exist? You might be muted.
My experience, I'm audible? Yeah. Yes. Well, from my experience, I have done my entire schooling and even my graduation in convents. What I feel now, especially when I'm with public schools and now a private school here in the Gulf, from my experience, my convent education, I felt the focus was more on the mastery of the English language, values, ethics, discipline, leadership skills. Convent schools traditionally were all affiliated to the ICSE board. However, these days, quite a few convent schools have switched over to CBSE. But irrespective of what type of school or board it is, I am of the firm opinion that, earlier on when parents admitted their child in a school, they would be assured that after 14 years, their child would emerge into a well-rounded individual, So probably these schools were called rice factories. However, these days, it is a 50-50 partnership. So irrespective of the board, irrespective of the type of school, private or government, and Mr. Siddharth, he has just told us about Delhi government schools being affiliated to IB. So that's absolutely wonderful. Because after all, even these children from the economically weaker sections deserve a chance for quality education. And when I say 50-50 partnership, irrespective of the board, the school as well as the home environment, the family contributes equally to the students' learning process. So whether any board or category of school, this divide is slowly lessening, in fact, because your child can go to the best of schools with the best of infrastructure, the best of training available and all. But if the child is not motivated enough, or the family is a little lax in their approach towards the child, it requires an equal contribution. So then I don't think the purpose is served over here. So yes, I feel the divide is lessening a little bit. At least I'm talking from the point of view of Delhi, as I belong to Delhi.
Okay, I think we are running out of time shortly. So just closing remarks from everybody that anyone would like to make. Ravi, we'll start with you.
I think I want to basically say that experiential learning, project-based learning, that's the mantra for the future. That's how we kind of help the students learn how to learn. And that should be the focus. For us as educators and for us as parents, as ecosystem players. That's my closing thoughts.
Thank you. Siddharth, your closing thoughts, and then I'll come back to Manjari.
Yeah, so I think the education system is moving towards opening up and offering a lot of opportunities in the sector for students. I think there will be a lot of room for curriculum innovation, and which will actually drive shed out a lot of old curriculum, accept and adapt to new curriculum. And as Ravi mentioned, I think technology is going to be one of those things. But I think a lot of work will need to be done at the grassroots level, especially at STEM education. That is important. Visual thinking, design thinking, bringing in sort of academic and also non-academic content into the school. These are really going to goals in terms of really helping us to build up personalities, build up students of the future, make them career ready, and make sure that they really succeed in life.
Great. And Manjari, your closing remarks, please. Thank you, Siddharth.
Since Mr. Siddharth already spoke about the girl child and early education, what I feel, in spite of all the funding and maybe certain policies being implemented, it is the mindset of the masses in rural areas. It definitely needs to be molded further. They should be made to realize that all this girl child education, early education, it'll make their lives more enriched and worth living. And especially like in the Western countries, education in rural areas, it should empower the people to take pride in their background. They should try to deter the masses from too much of migration into the cities, especially I feel if they are trained well and they're able to have decent earnings in their own, rural or small town cities. So I think that is very important. The divide would definitely reduce further. That is my take. Thank you.
That is brilliant. And with that, I'd just like to close the session with a thought. Clearly, you've summarized it well, but the thought is really universities like Banasthali University, which is aimed at the women. It's the largest women university in Asia and focused on the girl child, focused on experiential learning. These children are all coming out with great courses. I've had the luxury of visiting that, and so has the Vice Chancellor of Oxford. She went down there in 2017, and it's headed by a gentleman called Aditya Shastri. I'd like to invite the three of you who are changing the way education is going to be looked at in India in the next 20 years to really visit that university and see what the good work is. The closing thought is for the next session, which is, after all of this is done, where are these children getting employed, and how is the employment industry going to accept all this new experiential learning? That's for another session and another day, but I'd like to thank all our three panelists, Manjari, Ravi, and Siddharth, for gracing this occasion and being here. We are all, children of parents that are very proud of the effort they put in, but more importantly of the effort we've put in. And it all led to a lot in terms of employment. Let's make sure while we prepare the children for tomorrow that they are also being prepared for earning, because that is going to be a big challenge if the pandemic were to continue. With that, I'd like to thank our moderator, Mridula, and I'd like to hand the stage back to our MC, Mridula Sengupta.
Thank you.
Big round of applause for everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, panelists Siddharth, panelist Manjari, and panelist Ravi Raj, for sharing your thoughts and sharing your pearls of wisdom with all of us today. And thank you, our moderator, distinguished Toastmaster Smita Narayan, for moderating this event and creating an impact which I'm sure will stay with us for days to come, if not years. So thank you, everybody, for joining us and sharing your thoughts. Can we have a round of applause for everybody present here today? Thank you. Now, moving on, we have listened to so many beautiful and amazing orators We have listened to such amazing authors, writers, academicians, and so many people who come from different walks of life, and had something to share with us today. But as we process all this information, it is more important to imbibe them and make sure that the lessons and the tips, the tricks, and the wisdom that we gain today is embedded in our minds. And for that, we should always take a step back, reflect, and critically analyze what are the things we learned, what are the things that we have been doing and maybe changed, how to unlearn the things that we know, how to relearn the things we got to know today. And for that, we are going to have two fantastic book review sessions as the final act for the day. Book reviews, my friends, are ways to gain a sneak peek into the minds of the people who shared their thoughts, shared their perspectives. Just like distinguished Toastmaster Ankur said, the world is not about a single perspective. It's all about multiple perspectives. It's all about gaining as much knowledge as we can from different perspectives of people who we meet in our lives. And with perspectives come clarity. And for that, we also have somebody who will be sharing the book review of Clarity, Creativity, and Mythology. That is Bandi Chaitanya. Bandi Chaitanya will be sharing his book review on An Era of Darkness by Shashi Tharoor. So may I please request the host to put him on spotlight. Thank you. Over to you.
In 16th century, the GDP of India when British has entered is 25%. When British has left India, GDP has fallen asymptotically to 5%. Good evening everyone, my name is Chaitanya. Today I am going to review the book An Era of Darkness by Shashi Tharoor. In this review, I am going to cover three major things. How did this book originated? What are the things or the content in this book and who all can read it, and what are the things that I loved from this book. The first thing, how did this originated? In 2015, Dr. Shashi Tharoor has delivered a speech at Oxford Debate Union where he spoke about how did British has looted India during their rule. He uploaded this video in the internet, and over few days that video became viral, and one of his friend has suggested him to expand his research and write a book so that everyone will be aware of the thing or the actual reason what happened in during the British rule. Who all can read it and what is this book about? So this book is majorly about how did British has looted India. So from our childhood we know that Britishers are looted India, but we are not technically aware of the things that we people or Britishers are looted. So this book is answer to all those questions. And another, who all can read it? Any person who interested in know about history are eligible to read this book. What are the things that I loved? First and foremost, Shashi Tharoor is considered as an epitome for usage of English vocabulary, but the writing in this book a layman also can understand very easily, and the amount of research which Shashi Tharoor has done is out of box. He has collected information from 16th century. Trust me, the articles that the information which provided in this book is an amalgamation of articles, books, and editorials from 16th century to 20th century. So those the mixture of all things is An Era of Darkness. and I recommend everyone to read this book.
Let's have a round of applause for our book reviewer, the first book reviewer for this session, Bandi Chaitanya. Next up, we have another interesting book review session for one of my favorite books, which is written by Malcolm Gladwell, Blink. And the book reviewer we have with us today is Ankur Tyagi. Let's welcome him on the stage.
And I thank the Phoenix Literature Festival for allowing me this opportunity to review the book, which is called Blink, The Power of Thinking Without Thinking. It's written by the Canadian journalist Malcolm Gladwell. And without further ado, I would just like to take your attention to a very common question that we keep asking ourselves. Have you find asking this to yourself that, I don't have a good feeling about this, or this doesn't feel right? And the reason behind these feelings is just not clear. These are just hunches that come to you. These are just some kind of intuitions that come to you, and you don't have any facts, any analysis to base your feelings on. And Blink is that book which talks about these feelings, these hunches, and these gut feelings that we face every day. Now, the question which is being perpetrated here is that, do I believe them or should I just ignore them? A lot of times we tend to go with our gut feelings, and they don't always prove to be right. So it is not as simple as it may sound. It is not like that these feelings come and go without a reason or don't have any underlying reason behind them. And that is what Malcolm Gladwell does in this book. He decodes this whole principle of thin slicing and talks about the whole science between these gut feelings and these hunches that come to us. He talks about, in the beginning of the book, which is a very good example of this feeling, that is a statue which has been claimed to be centuries old, and an antiquist comes, and by just merely touching that statue, the antiquist confirms that this is a counterfeit statue, as is not the one that it is being claimed to be. Another way of using those gut feelings in daily lives is during criminal investigations, as Malcolm Gladwell talks about, when a police officer is standing to arrest a criminal offender, himself being unarmed while the offender is fully armed, and yet the cop knows that this guy is not going to shoot you. And that is a hunch that he follows, and it comes out to be true. And the book is filled with numerous anecdotes and examples like this, which are so apt and engaging. One of the prime styles of writing that Malcolm Gladwell follows is through these anecdotes, through these examples, through his own personal experiences and chats with the people who have been affected by such feelings. And this is what makes this book really credible. A lot of times critics have criticized the style of writing by Malcolm Gladwell, saying that it is oversimplified, but I think that is what works for him in this very book. You find a lot of simplifications of so many complex psychological principles, and that is what really clinches it for him. And that is the most entertaining aspect of this book. Thank you so much, Phoenix Literature Festival, for letting me review this book. This is a highly recommended book for those who are into psychology. Over to you. Thank you, Kavita.
Thank you so much, our book reviewer, Toastmaster Ankur. Now, with that, we come to a close to the 3-day wonderful extravaganza, the cultural extravaganza, the fest where we exchanged ideas, where we exchanged our emotions, and we shared our perspectives to come out as a more learned, a more wiser version of ourselves. Now, I would like to thank all the role players of the evening, the moderators, Anil Jalali, Sumit Kashyap, Bhavya Bansal, Aditya Sharma, Rohan Bansal, Mandakini Singh, Vandita Shukla, Smita Narayan, my fellow MC for the day, Laiba Varsia, and our very dedicated tech master for the evening, Sonil Gagandas Kriplani. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us, for joining us today. And I'm sure that all of us enjoyed, learned, and are going to take back something from this event. And even if we visit an event, we all know where to find it. I will request the host to share the Facebook link for this particular event so that all of us can go back and revisit the wonderful memories that we made here. With that, I would like to invite on the podium somebody who is working as a CBO at startupjob.in. He is a best-selling author of 10 children books, a certified creative writer, and an award-winning marketer and a public speaker. He has been nominated for the highly coveted Rex Karanveer Chakra Award, the Youth Fellowship for contribution in bringing positive change in the society in July 2020. He's a very charming personality and one of the star organizers for this show. Please put your hands together for our very own Toastmaster, Rahul Sharma. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Nudala. Thank you so much. It has been a wonderful event so far, and we all love the sessions. We all love the speeches, workshops. There's too much to learn from every session, and we feel that we have more time. As Abu mentioned, we all have 24 hours, and how much we can absorb, soak in, and apply in our life. That's the crux of the whole event. So again, I will go back to day one, and I will just take a moment to thank everyone. We have great session on day one, started by Kaushik Bhattacharya, Ekta Shetty, we have Ganesh Rawat, vision actor, we have Mohan Singh, and we have other dignitaries who helped us, who started very well, and we have book launches, Aditya Sharma, Ani Jalali sir, Aditosh, Srivastava. We loved the session, loved the energy anchored by Mansi. Then we have first session panel, we have Ayan Pal, Aditya Gautam, Mukesh Pulotia, well moderated by Devi. We love why don't books change lives, we do. And moving on, we have next section, Ponder on Poetry, moderated by Neena Singh ji, and we have on panel Dr. Vijaya Lakshmi, Monica Gupta, Kosha Shah Chandaria. And next session we have Manjari Prabhu ma'am, again moderated by David. Illuminating session. And then the main session I look forward to, that was Unschooling the Future of Education, and we have Manish Jain ji, Dr. P.K. Vijayan ji, Pankaj Pushkar ji. And I love that session, and I feel we could have more time to have more conversation in that session. And next we have a panel on Anandika, Ashwani, and Ritoji, and topic was why do more people need to write more books? And in the end, we have storytelling sessions, and we have 22 storytellings from gavaKsh kids, and we love that energy of kids. So day one was very full of excitement, energy, learning. And we have MCs. We have MCs Shiva Shoot, bubbling with energy. We have MC Ashmeet Singh and Tech Master signing. Day two, we have MC Laiba and MC Shiva Shoot again, and Tech Master signing. And first session, very important impact of world education on India's growth. We have Dr. Anapreet, we have Leher Sethi, we have Sujata Rajpal, and moderated by David. Interesting session. Next, we have Joy of Writing, and we have none other than Ramesh Banerjee, and well moderated by Anantika Suji. Session 3, we have our crime thriller author, detailing the masses. David moderated well, with Vivek Chaturvedi and Manas Lalji. A lot to learn from all these sessions, and the crux is keep on trying, keep on writing, and keep observing. Observe and write, read and write. Next session was moderated by Authentica Shukla, decoding myths in mythology. We have Jai Shukla on board with Lalita ji. Then we have Darshan Neil, D. Silva, Sushi Singh, moderated by none other than Shweta Lohira. Impact of social media and book reading. Session 6 on day 2, Vani Kaushal, RTV Raman, Sujata Parashar on panel and moderated by Riya Sharma. Topic, conflict is the king in romantic stories. These topics were majorly shared by Anil Jalali sir. Like, we love the topics, and maybe next year we will have amazing different topics from the members and the audience as well. And the session 7 was moderated by Harito Srivastav, and we have on panel Shogun, Sayan, Shweta Maheshwari, and topic was very interesting. My favorite one, rising romantic feelings, a reflection of society. Session 8 was emceed by Bhavya, and on panel we have Gitanjali, Mayuri, and Natasha Bhagwat, and well moderated by Chetan Lakhera. And topic was need of the effect of spirituality on our situations. How being spiritual, we can control our situations. Session 9, changing face of the publishing industry through the years. And we have on panel a publisher, Dipankar Mukherjee, a literary agent, best-selling author, Suhail Mathur, and veteran speaker and author, Suhail Mukherjee, and moderated by none other than Aditya Sharma. Session 10, this is long. Session 10, the art of changing our beliefs, moderated by Umashankar Akharia, and we had on panel Dr. Anjum Padyal and Shraddha WTB. Last session of day 2, we have Davnish Singh and Sabjit Das to speak on how to tell a story, and well moderated by Kavita Joshi. Last but not the least, last day, today we, as already RMC Mithula shared very well, that we had a great session today. We had TV shows, we had book reviews, TV show and book review shows, and chaired by Anil, and book reviews shared by Bhavya Banshal. Panel 2 on session 2, we have Sumit Kashyap, and we had none other than Commandant Dinesh Kumar Chauhanji and Sabji to talk about entertainment in the age of millennials. And while moderating, I think love the session by Sumit Kashyap. He moderated very well. I love the pause, the depth in his moderation. And so with the speakers. And session 4, we have Raymondjit Taylor on our board and Arti Agarwal from Singapore. Again, Aditya Sharma was in his best role to speak to chair the show on the role of script writing in a film. Next, we have Rohan Bansal spearheading the session with Preeti Venu Gopala, Sandeep Sharma on leaders, love, flawed characters. My favorite topic, again, because being a romantic writer and who love read such books. Then we have Ketan Bhagat on board with Uday Singh Pawar, and well moderated by Mandakini Singh, is OTT the end of reading. Well, we have a lot to discuss on this. Maybe some other day we have a 1-hour session on this. And then, my friends, we have a very great session on Leaders of Tomorrow, well chaired by Vandita Shukla. We have on panel Abu Shadab, Paramjot Singh, Ankush Yadav, and none other than Harito Srivastav. Last but not the least, we had a last session on the changing face of education by Smita Narayan, and we have Manjari Recriwal, Ravi Raj, Siddharth Mathur on board. And these sessions we loved so much, and we learned. And behind these sessions, we had a lot of support team working day and night, 16 hours a day, and it was possible with the effort of these team members, more than 50 people working behind the scenes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Vandika. Thank you, Ridula. Thank you, Laiba. Thank you, Shivasud. You can see my could not speak words. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sunilji. And thank you. We have so many names. Thank you, Vaidolji. Thank you, everyone. You are the stars of the show. You made this possible. And hopefully next year we will have great lineup, a great day, a great event. Looking forward to. Thank you, everyone, for being on the board. See you next year. Thank you.